In this episode, we sit down with Nicolas, the visionary founder behind Vambe, a groundbreaking customer engagement platform transforming the landscape of conversational e-commerce in Latin America. Join us as Nicolas shares his inspiring journey from Chile to Mexico, discussing the challenges and triumphs of building a tech startup in a rapidly evolving market. We dive into his entrepreneurial roots, the innovative solutions Vambe offers, and the future of technology in Latam. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a tech enthusiast, this conversation is packed with insights and inspiration. Nico, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you making the time.
Thank you so much for having me here and giving us the space. I think there's some very cool stuff to tell a little bit from Latam to the rest of the world. So very happy to be here as well.
Of course. You were recommended by some very impressive people, investors, co-founders, and so forth. So I thought it'd be great to get you on. But before we get into your venture now, Vambe, and what you're doing there in the conversational e-commerce space, I think it'd be great to dive into your background, your early passions, what you did, where you grew up, and maybe some inspirations that led you to where you're at now.
Of course, of course. I think we can do a long story short. Well, I was born in Chile, South America, the longest country on the world, near the Antarctica, actually. It's very, very far. I'm very used to go and travel for at least 12, 14 hours on plane to go anywhere. It's very far away, you know. It's crazy because I'm so used to it. Now I'm living in Mexico City. From Mexico City to any other part of the world, you just 4 hours, 5 hours, and you're done. It's amazing. Well, but I was born there in Chile, in Santiago, in the main in our city there, and I'm part of a family where everybody is an entrepreneur. From my dad and also from my mom, I've been around family businesses, small businesses since ever. And I think I grew up in a family where sports, where effort, where working was always like super upfront. My mom was very like giving us, I remember, a lot of incentives. We did, for example, if we work on the summer, if we got good grades, like she was always like that. And I was also very into sports. I used to play rugby at school, and I run motocross, and I went skiing. I was very crazy on the extreme sports side. I think that's also something a lot of entrepreneurs, maybe even more than me, maybe share as well. That risk advertisement.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you make a few interesting points I wanted to hit on. And growing up in Chile, and I didn't know that was the longest country in the world. That is an interesting fact that you just gave me. But did you think growing up there, being so in some ways isolated the country to get anywhere by plane to North America, it's far, and to Europe and so forth. Do you think that had an impact on like just being very self-sufficient, being able to like the community itself is very insular, or how did that affect your perspective globally?
Well, I think I was in Chile, but I always had a very big privilege. Thanks to my dad and my mom, I was always able to travel since I was very, very young. I went into a British school, actually, so I learned English since I was very young. I went to Europe, to the US since I was very young. So I early on realized that we were in the edge of the world, right? So I also always understood that if we wanted to build something big, we needed to leave Chile at some point. Actually, I went to study at Berkeley. Maybe we can chat a little bit about that earlier after. And now I'm living in Mexico. And I think if you talk with another Chilean entrepreneurs, all of them know that Chile is a very isolated and small country. And if you want to build something very, very big, you need to build your venture since day zero with the idea of, okay, we need to move out as soon as possible.
Hitting on one more point before we get into maybe your university days, and then let's discuss your time at UC Berkeley. But did you feel like I've spoken with some entrepreneurs, and when they come from this lineage of entrepreneurship, successful or not, they almost feel a pressure. Do you feel that pressure now, or did you feel that pressure to say, okay, I need to start my own company, I need to be an entrepreneur, or no?
I think I would say yes. Actually, I record my dad telling me like, hey, I am not here and I'm not willing to work for anybody else. And for me, it sounded strange because mostly all of the parents of my friends work for other people. It was kind of the normal thing. It's the normal thing to do, right? But I kind of always live into that like in my family, my dad always worked on Saturdays, Sundays. It was kind of a different lifestyle, with a lot of hard work, but also with a lot of ownership of your own time and actions. So I would say I could kind of felt that pressure, but in my mind, I always wanted to build my own stuff because I kind of not always fit into the same thinking process or thinking of everybody else. So I knew if I went to the corporate world, that was going to be something I was going to have some friction, right?
And I think in some ways it's a blessing and a curse, right? You feel this pressure, but then you know it's expectation. Maybe you have these relationships that you can go to and lean in on difficult emotional times. But thanks for sharing that, and I appreciate that. So maybe we transition now into your university days, and I know you mentioned it, and it was a big impact on you. Maybe share your time at this program at UC Berkeley, and I'm sure it had an impact on perception of global vision for a startup, talent? How do you build a product? Please share any insights you had from that.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Well, so I started studying industrial engineering in Chile, in La Pontificia Universidad Católica. Well, that's one of the best engineering schools in Latam, I would say. Uh, and it's tough. It's very, very hard. And I realized that because when I went to Berkeley, I felt chill, right? Because the way they teach is different. Berkeley, it was hands-on. Like I won a scholarship because I kind of, at my first year in Universidad Católica in engineering, I tried to build a QR payment method for getting lunch at the schools, at the big corporations. Uh, with that project, and I used to play rugby for I was training for the national selection as well. So, I had these two things. So I was studying engineering, very young. I was trying to build a startup, blah blah blah, and I won this scholarship because maybe I kind of had a all around profile, I think.
They're like, this guy will figure something out. He's either going to be on the national team or have a startup.
Yeah, I think that's how Berkeley saw me. I was the one of the youngest. I think I was the youngest guy in the program, and that won the scholarship there. And it was amazing for me because I was it was a program that they bring on to the SET, that's the department, and 30 students from different parts of the world, from different degrees. Like we had, I don't know, designers from Europe, people that was studying law in Brazil, engineers from Chile, people from Asia. So it was like 30 people with different skills working there on the semester for building different stuff. So they're kind of grabbed my idea of building this QR payment system for having lunch, and we kind of pivoted with other friends in the thing. It was great. It didn't kind of work out, like we didn't drop out for that project, but it was a year of a lot of learning for me. I mean, this lean method of doing things, of pivoting, of iterating, of building, it's a mindset I bring from there. Um, it was great. I think it was a very special year for me that kind of helped me understand all this. Like, I need to go global. I need to do things. I need to pivot. I need to iterate. I need to work with engineers. I need to learn about product. It was good.
And are there still some friends, mentors, professors, maybe people in the ecosystem that you met in San Francisco that you keep in touch with today that are advising you or have helped you make decisions currently with Vambe?
Yeah, actually, this is
Maybe
something
investors? You
very.
never know.
Yeah, actually, it's weird because in Berkeley you have Berkeley Skydeck. That's kind of the university private VC. Okay, and when I was 20 years old, I went to Berkeley, and I went to Skydeck to watch entrepreneurs teach and build crazy stuff. And the last year, I was selected as entrepreneur by Skydeck. Now, not as a student, and Skydeck it's an investor of. So that was just a big coincidence, and also I stay in touch with David Law, that's the director of the program, and also Igor Marinelli, that's a friend of mine that we were building together that startup in that semester. He's now owner of a huge company called Traction. And Monash that's a Brazilian VC, is investor in Traction and in Vambe. So kind of everything then came up crazy.
So it was a successful program in many aspects for you this semester or year. How long was it? Was it 1 year or a semester?
Yeah, it was almost a year because we studied for a semester and then I stayed working in San Francisco startup for another semester.
So we'll get to Vambe and where it's at now, but I want to hit on right before the pandemic, you had this small, I guess you say, project that ended up growing and pursuing into a few years down the line. Can you share a little bit about that? And I think the project, what was it? And it was called Fugazo and so forth.
Yeah, the project was called Fogonazo. That it's yeah, yeah. That's when I came back to Chile from Berkeley, I began a business that started out just like a side business. I was just buying charcoal for barbecue, very far out from the main city, and I was bringing in to restaurants, to events, to people at their house, and I kind of built kind of a big network of people that was selling these products for me, people in the university, very informal. And started to work out very, very good. Since I just liked to do business, I kind of started to build a real business around it. So I kind of professionalized everything I was bringing. Then I started to import different products for barbecue from Argentina, from Paraguay, and I kind of built a real business while I was finishing my industrial engineering degree. My company back then, Fogonazo, was an SMB, and I felt every issue a small company owner in Latam normally face. So it was just a lot of experience, a lot of learning, a lot of failure. It was a very tough business. 20 kilograms of charcoal, the margins was horrible, it was just tough. And we hold on for a long time with that business, like 3 or 4 years. I was doing it with my brother, my little brother, and another friend of university. But my brother, when we started out for Bonazo, he was like 16 years old, and I kind of sold him a small part of the business, and he was helping me with everything, learning a lot of that stuff as well. It was very good.
The pandemic comes, and did that accelerate it? In some ways, make it more difficult or make the opportunity bigger because people now are stuck and people are maybe cooking and doing more things, or was it completely irrelevant?
No,
Opposite.
it was completely opposite.
Oh,
We basically had to close the business after some time because with one our bigger customers were restaurants, were people who made events, like they bought in bulk, big small and boutique barbecue stores. All those were our customers. 2 years, nothing happening. And also every cost increased because the cost of fuel for me to bring in by truck, everything was expensive. So we kind of hold on, and then it wasn't worth it. We just closed the business.
yeah, and enough was enough. You're like, you know what? I need something else. But you had a lot of
We did
takeaways.
the battle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You did the battle, but maybe the war is still out there, but the battle was done. So after this, then your next step before Vambe was this kind of, I guess you were working for a startup that had this like auto production product, right? And do you want to share a little bit about that, or was this just a short stint, correct? In between?
Yeah, actually, Matias, one of my actual co-founder, he called me one day and he told me, "Hey, I'm the first developer in this startup. We're doing some very cool stuff. We're building some software for being able to basically provide any car services at home, like an Uber system for cars
Mm.
services, basically." And he called me then and told me, "Hey, we need some very good business guy. Even though I'm an industrial engineer and we always leaned into doing business, we want you here for growing the business, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Okay, let's do it." I was just jumping out from university. I just closed my business. I had another informal and side hustles and stuff like that. As always, I very doing some stuff with my brother, and I said, okay, let's do it. I just wanted to be close to people, to developers. I wanted to be closer to technology. At that point in Fogonazo, we were just doing old school stuff, right? So I just jumped in, and I was there in that startup for just maybe 6 months because when I arrived, 3 months later, I called again Matias, my actual co-founder, and hey, I have an idea. Let's start working on this. And that's when Vambe basically arose. And 3 months later, I just quit Carbook, and I didn't went full time to Vambe. I found another job that was like part-time job so that I could kind of keep winning some money so that I can bring some money to the business as well.
In this holding period, when you shut down the first company, you knew that you were going to come up with another one. It was just a period of time, right? Like you didn't say, okay, I'm done with entrepreneurship. Of course not. You wanted to wait.
I mean, it hit it hard. It hit the ego, of course, because we failed. That's what happened, actually. Like, of course, we had some external casualties, but a failure is a failure, right? We need to say things how they are. And of course, at the beginning, it was tough, and I didn't felt that good, and I was super tired because it was a hard business. We kind of lost a lot of like we won a lot of money at the beginning, and then we had so many losses that at the end of the day, we worked for 4 years and jumped out with nothing, right? So it was tough, but it just that negative feeling I had in my mind maybe for a month, but then I knew like we needed to find something else, and I needed to build something big, something scalable, something related to technology. To be honest, all my life until Bambi, I was always doing 5 or 6 different things at the time. So I was studying engineering, trying to be a professional rugby player, and with a girlfriend going. Yes, I was always so kind of diluted. My focus was always so diluted that when for Gonazo we had to close that business, I said I need to find something that is so big that I can just shut down everything else and focus on one only thing. No going out, no family time, no nothing, just one thing. And we found it. We built it. And we found Bambi. And Bambi has gave me that space where I need to give not my 100%, my 1,000%, you know?
Let's jump into Vambe and Matthias and you launched this, right? And what is it? And then how did you land in Mexico and how's the journey been so far? And then we'll get into more details about the product, your customer profile, and so forth.
Of course. Well, so just being extremely simplified, what we build is we build a customer engagement platform with a lot of different tools so that companies in Latam can scale. Okay.
Mhm.
And basically, what you can do with Bambi, you can do a lot of things, but there's a very big issue in Latin America that economy, business is super conversational. Even if you want to go and buy something simple like an AirPod, normally everybody tries to reach out to the business. Hey, what's the specification? Why this AirPod is better than the other? Everybody likes to talk and chat so much that we companies in Latam struggle a lot with providing that level of service and engagement with their customers. It's not scalable. You need to hire people, hundreds of people to just be behind the scenes chatting and answering the phone. It's hard.
And question, when you say this is for an AirPod or a product that's $100 or a car that's $20,000, which is different, right? Than you would say in the US.
Exactly.
Okay.
We provide Vambi for everybody, and we have extremely good use cases and stories with people and car dealerships and with people selling things that are just $40. The problem for them is the same. I'm flooded with messages, I'm flooded with requests, and I can't serve my customers at time, at form, right? That's a problem. And until maybe 2 years ago, that problem was very hard to solve. And we had this classic, I hate them, but this very kind of old school chatbots with these decision trees that you don't get to nowhere. And that was one of maybe the only solution the companies were trying to put to hold on this problem. Okay. So that was kind of the issue kind of we identified and that we felt, and I felt myself doing business, that it was very hard. So we kind of built a different tool and a tool that was, of course, AI first. We built this, we were doing agents before ChatGPT had agents. So we were kind of coding all this stuff and we kind of built a platform that allows companies to easily create and orchestrate agents built into their communication channels, built into WhatsApp, built into Instagram DM, built into Facebook messengers, you know? And one very kind of interesting thing that we built is that 80% of our customers are just companies like ones that I had before. Normal, medium, small size companies that they don't have a very big technical team and all that stuff. So 80% of our customers arrive at Vambe without knowing what a prompt is. And we build them a platform that has 6 hyper-personalized agents working together, receiving the leads, closing, offering, doing the follow up and basically increasing their conversion rate, increasing their sales just in a week and with no implementation fee. So it's crazy, that's kind of something we've been able to provide. And it was super hard because you needed technology, but you also needed professional services. So we kind of combine these two things to provide what our customers need.
And take me through. Obviously, you guys are now farther into the journey, but as you're thinking of the challenge and the problem you're obsessing over, you experienced it. I'm sure your co-founder as well. You understand it so well. You understand the opportunity with technology. But I wanted to ask you about the customer. These customers feel the pain, correct? But do they believe this is a solution that's going to work? Do they actually onboard the right way? Do they actually think this is real in some ways? And this might sound very trivial for someone who doesn't understand Latam, but I'm asking you this because the person that owns a flower shop, do they really want this? And I want to ask you that is how have you guys overcome these barriers to these SMEs players?
That's a very great question. I don't know if you're familiar with this kind of new technologies adoption curve, that it's like the Gauss. You have the early adopters, then you have the early majority, then you have the pragmatics, And I think we felt that so much. You might be surprised, but in Chile, specifically in Chile, they're very early adopters. Chile is a great place to start a new technological business because people want to try out things. They just decide they try it out. When you move out and you go to Mexico, you go to Colombia, you go to Peru, they are a little bit more old-fashioned in that regards in deciding I'm going to buy this new technology from this new company that I don't know, that I'm not sure if it's going to work or not.
I have to give them my credit card. I maybe only have one. I have to get paid every month. I don't know what happens.
Exactly. So that's been a challenge, but I think we've been lucky because of timing. I think AI is so big right now that even those small businesses kind of feel that if I don't start learning and if I don't start using this technology in my business right now, things are not going to be good in the future. And I think they know it. And that's why they're coming to us so much.
So that makes an interesting point. You have these tailwinds. So as you move to Mexico and there's this adoption in Chile, and as you move here, how did you first scale the team? How did you find the right people to join the team? Because I wanted to ask you about the dynamics of finding the right people to build a team, because you've built prior companies, you've had worked with your brother, you've worked with friends, you've had side hustles. When you look for people to join and hire, what are some characteristics and how do you work through these challenges?
That's also a very good question. Yeah, that's a very good point. I think one of the hardest things, I mean, at the beginning, when you're starting a company, at the beginning you're building a product. That's a hard thing. You need to build a product that somebody wants. And that's hard, okay? Then you're not building a product, you're building a company, okay? And a company, the building blocks of a company are people and processes. That's what a company is, basically, right? So I think people is one of the hardest things to do. And our mentality since day one, we just wanted to work with the best people we ever knew. So actually the first hire Joaquin Strolle, the first engineer. It was someone that was just studying my age in my university, and he was just brilliant. He was the guy who everybody reached out to just help me do everything, and also he did sports. He was very, 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 very great guy. And he was the first person I just called. And he was working at that point in one of the biggest startups in Chile ever. Like, he had a great job, and it was just impossible to us to think he was gonna leave his job to join me, Diego, and Matias. We were working on Matias' parents' house. We
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
have an
yeah.
office. We
Yeah,
were
no
just working
office,
on the living.
barely a product, couldn't pay them that much, right? Or free.
Yeah, exactly. But we always said, let's reach out to him. I don't want anybody less than him in our team. We had such a big dream, and me, Diego, and Matias, we were building such a great team that he joined us. And talent brings talent. And I think that was one of the most important things we were doing since the beginning. The second engineer was exactly the same story. Top guy of the university, like he also did sport. Like, they both could write code and sell. So at the beginning, like the first 10, but that's what we were looking for with the first 10 people. We needed like this elite team that could do everything, right? And that's how we started. I think that since those first 10 people were so good, then talents brings talents.
And you get some momentum, people hear what you're doing, and slowly but surely it attracts it. It'd be great to go through like last 2 or 3 questions. First, just 2 use cases. You mentioned a few earlier, but like specifically if you're this type of profile company, larger, this is how you interact with Vambe and how you guys work. And then if you're a smaller company and you can give me an example of, not a specific company if you don't want to, but how they work through the product. And yeah, I think that'd be great.
Let's put the car dealership example, because we have a lot of them, and we're working with one of the biggest car dealerships in Latam. The problem that they were facing was super clear. We're selling cars, we are doing paid media, so we're paying Meta to run some ads and bring leads to our webpage or our WhatsApp, so that we can try to call them or have someone in behind try to bring them into the store so that we can show them the car in person, right? But what was the problem? Two things. First, their potential customers were seeing these ads after 7 p.m., 6 p.m. Because you're not seeing Instagram, you're not scrolling while you're working, right? 80% of the traffic was coming after hours, and they didn't have a big team, and it was super expensive to have a team 24/7, basically chatting with these people. And the second problem is, hey, we're bringing a huge amount of volume, but 80% of the leads are just trash. We don't. It's just we're losing money trying to reach out and handling that sales. That was the problem. So what we did with them is that we built just an army of different AI agents that are connected to WhatsApp, so that when you jump in and you just click an ad and say, hey, I'm interested in this Ford or in this Mercedes, the AI just basically jumps in and starts chatting with you, super friendly, and detecting really what are you looking for. You want something 4x4, you want something safe for your family, what's your budget? Okay, perfect. Okay, so now that the AI understands your needs, it goes up, calls an API, and gives you a personalized recommendation and really sells you what you're looking for. And then, just then, when you are a qualified lead, I sold you the car, I did a personalized recommendation, the AIs connect to the calendar of the humans that are in the car dealership in person, and you go next to the next day to try your car. Boom.
Yeah, and your calendar set up with, Johnny or Juan
Qualified
that's already
leads,
that's at the dealership saying, "Oh, great, this person's coming in and this is what they have."
Exactly, and this is what they're looking for. The AI already recommended, and he became from a very cold lead to a qualified, super warm lead in person, in the store, no human before that point.
Overnight when no one else was going to do this anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, then the small
So
player, how does that work? Give me an example, maybe not a flower shop, but something that's
yeah,
maybe yeah.
and e-commerce. For example, we have a very good e-commerce that they are selling open box computers. For example, you have a MacBook Air that might be $2,000. They're selling it for $700. What's the problem they had? People didn't understand why they are selling me a MacBook Air new. What's the condition? Why it's so cheap? This is a scam. What the hell? So all of their customers were trying to reach out and say, hey, I want this computer. Why it's so cheap? What's the problem with it? What are the conditions? So a lot of requests of just explaining why this product was so good for them. And the AI is, again, built into WhatsApp, built into their Instagram, built into their web chat. And the AI is just, again, understanding the end customer's needs, explaining why the products are so good or which product should they take. The AI is building the shopping cart, is building the checkout, is doing the follow-up if you did your abandoned cart. So basically all that sales process is being handled now by agents, not by.
And the adoption's happening fast, which is pretty crazy because it's happening so fast here, in more developed countries, it's even faster, right? And I think that's what's crazy is you would have never thought, and it 10 years ago or 5 years ago, would this be happening? In some ways, it's amazing, right? You would have never have thought that. So as you look to the last few questions here to the future, how do you think of product? What are you looking to do in the next 12, 24 months from a product side on your roadmap? And how do you keep growing Vambe and so forth?
I think we have very ambitious plans for the future. And I think we're gonna stay serving Latam for a while, maybe until Series B. Market here is just huge. Thing is growing so big. The needs are so big. And I think, as I mentioned before, companies here in Latam, they're not gonna self-serve. They don't have the skills, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the time, they don't have the interest, they don't care. They just want to buy something that works. And I think there we kind of been kind of finding our space so good that I think we're gonna stay here for a long time, maybe the next 3 to 5 years. But after that, we have the vision and the dream to go global. I think we should be providing our technology, our AI ecosystem of products to all businesses, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on with that, with the opportunity here in Latam. They don't have the talent, and if they do, it's expensive, the resources, the allocation of time, and knowing what to build. So you make very good points with that. Last two questions, very basic. To date, what are you most proud of? And then to follow up with that, what has been the biggest challenge or misconception?
I think I'm super proud of the team we have built. I think your level of success is very much related to which type of people are you related to, right? So if you're able to bring very big talent to the table and being able to have people that it's just, I mean, I would argue that 99% of Vambe's team is smarter than me. Like raw intelligence, they're just another level. And I really think that's one of the biggest things. I mean, being able to have people much smarter than me just working with us, following us, believing in this big vision, and just giving it all. I mean, they are not having a 9 to 5. People at Vambe are working 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. It's fucking hard. It's just all in. It's your life. And that's one of the big things I'm very proud of. And I think one of the biggest challenges until now, it was in the beginning, finding this first, let's say, product market fit. While we were working on another stuff, so we were kind of part-time working there, part-time working here, iterating, just no cash at all. That part was
Is
tough
this
because
worth it?
exactly, and it's slow, when and everybody thinks like, why you being such a great engineer from the best university are losing your time trying out this crazy thing, like just get a job. And that's, I think, that the typical impression a lot of entrepreneurs get at some point of their life. But you just gotta ignore. You just gotta go and chase what you think you're building. But it's tough because it's also kind of a a slow process. I think everything is so hard and so slow until you find that product market fit. And if you kind of know you find it and you know how to execute, then you start like a ramp up that is super fun. It's stressful. It's hard. It's everything. It doesn't get easier. It gives you energy. Different.
The energy, that's different energy, but it feels good. Maybe not as tough.
Mhm.
Thank you, Nico, for your
Exactly.
time. I appreciate it. I'll get you an edit and so forth, but thanks for making the time. And this was a blast. I'm glad you're here in Mexico City. We need to link up. I'm over here too as well.
Amazing. Yeah, let's
Yes.
let's try to find a
Yeah.
place. I would love
Yeah.
that. We should go out for a coffee or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's make time in the future. Thank you very much and talk soon.
Okay, bye. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
That's a wrap on this episode of Cut the Check, presented by VCMX. If you enjoyed this conversation, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed and leave a review. It really helps more founders and investors discover the show. You can find me on LinkedIn at Mack Meyer or check out my website at mackmeyer.com for more insights on startups, venture capital, and the Latin America ecosystem. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next week.